I step into the grand ballroom of the Evergreen Resort and immediately wish I'd stayed home. Chandeliers spill crystal light across polished marble, and wealth clings to the air like perfume, soft, smug, undeniable. Michael's hand settles at the small of my back, grounding me with the steady confidence of his touch. "Breathe," he murmurs, his surgeon's gaze scanning me with precise calm. "We earned our place here." Leo tugs at his bow tie, his 6-year-old patience already fraying. "Mom, this thing is trying to strangle me." I kneel and fix the offending, not with a reassuring smile. "Just a little longer, buddy. Remember our deal, good behavior now, swimming pool later?" The crowd parts for a moment, and my entire body locks. A face I once knew better than my own flickers into view. The slight tilt of her head, the way her laugh leans forward before it leaves her. I haven't seen that gesture in 11 years, but memory's a cruel archivist. The bride turns, champagne glass lifted mid-toast, and our eyes collide across the room. Grace, my sister. My champagne flute trembles, the only external sign of the quake ripping through me. I hadn't recognized Daniel Brooks on the invitation. I didn't make the connection. I assumed Grace still used our family name, Collins. Her gasp slices through polite chatter like a blade. Heads swivel. The music continues, but silence expands between us, stretching thin and tense. Behind her, Mother's face leaches pale before flushing a furious red. Father shifts toward Grace, broad shoulders forming the same shield he's always used to keep me out. "What are you doing here?" Mother spits, loud enough for surrounding guests to pause mid-sentence. Shame coils in my throat for one brief second. I'm 21 again, drenched in rain with a suitcase and nowhere to go. But Michael moves beside me, his voice steady steel. "My wife is a guest. She's the CEO of Medova." We were invited by the groom. The name Medova ripples through the physicians nearby. Whispers spread, recognition sparks. "CEO." A woman in burgundy leans toward her companion. "That's Amber Collins." Rain seeps through my jacket again in my mind as Father's old words echo back. "If you're too ungrateful to help at the clinic, don't come back." The slam of the front door final as the judge's gavel still rings. But now, I stand straight-backed in Valentino. The rain is a ghost. The girl who left is gone. In her place stands a woman who built herself from the wreckage. Dr. Daniel Brooks approaches, confusion knitting his brow. He glances between Grace's rigid expression and my composed one. "You know the CEO of Medova?" He asks my parents before turning toward me, curiosity sharpening. "We've been trying to partner with them for months. Your patient monitoring system is transforming post-surgical care." Grace forces a smile, but it cracks at the corners. My parents exchange a blistered look. The murmurs in the room swell, gathering momentum. I could ruin them. I could expose a decade of deceit. I could tell Daniel how they claimed I failed out of college, how they siphoned my tuition to fund Grace's Bright. For once, the power sits in my hands. Instead, I simply say, "Hello, Grace. Congratulations." The quietness of it lands like thunder. Grace recoils as if struck. Michael's hand returns to my back, asking silently, "Stay or leave?" Leo peers up at me, blissfully unaware of the storm gathering around us. "Mom, is that lady in the white dress your friend?" Daniel's attention sharpens. He studies Grace, the woman he'd just married, and the stranger who clearly isn't a stranger. "Grace," he says slowly, suspicion edging his voice. "I thought you said your sister was." The sentence dies unfinished, suspended between truth and the lie she's built. Grace's eyes dart between her husband and our parents. For the first time, I watch her struggle to form a story. Ever walk into a room and instantly regret it? The smart choice is to leave quietly. Let her have her perfect wedding. Let the past rot where it was buried. But regret is just fear in a masquerade mask. And fear lost its power over me years ago. "And this is my wife, Grace," Daniel continues brightly, sliding an arm around her waist. Stanford graduate and the brilliant mind running her family's medical practice in Vermont. I stand 10 feet away, champagne untouched, watching Grace nod demurely as she's presented to a group of doctors. Her pearl earrings glint an old tell from childhood. The one she never lost. The one that appears when she's stretching the truth. "The Collins Clinic has served our community for 30 years, she says with perfect poise. "We specialize in family medicine and some geriatric care." Michael's hand taps my elbow, shifting my attention. A silver-haired woman in an elegant pantsuit studies my name badge Medova. Her eyes widen. "You're Amber Collins. Your summit presentation last month was phenomenal. The monitoring system you designed is reshaping recovery protocols across 3 states. 4, I reply with a small smile. We just finalized Northwestern's network." Across the room, Grace stumbles through a muddled answer about platelet therapy. The doctor questioning her shares a pointed look with his colleague. "Didn't Stanford move away from that approach 3 years ago?" he asks, puzzled. Grace laughs, too bright, too thin. "Well, academics. Some cling to old methods." Daniel's expression tightens subtly. His arm shifts from her waist. He's seeing the cracks. "Amber." The voice behind me is my father's, 11 years older, but still carrying the same command that once kept me answering phones at the clinic while Grace practiced piano. "You need to leave," he orders, placing himself between me and the room. "You're ruining Grace's day." Michael bristles, but I rest a calm hand on him. "I was invited by Daniel," I reply evenly. "Maybe you should explain why that's a problem." Father's jaw ticks. His expensive suit can't hide the small-town doctor beneath it, a man whose authority ends at the clinic's front door. "Don't play innocent. Showing up like this, parading whatever company you say you run." "Medova is an acclaimed dentist," Michael cuts in, standing tall in all his Harvard-trained confidence. "She was the keynote in Boston last month. Her systems run in 27 hospitals nationwide." A nearby guest turns, eyes widening. Across the room, Mother hovers near Grace, desperately redirecting Daniel's colleagues, her hands fluttering like frantic birds. Too late. Recognition is spreading. Medical professionals connect dots, trade glances, murmur her name, my name. Leo tugs my hand. "Mom, cake now?" "You promised." "In a minute, sweetheart." He peers past me, eyes locked on Grace. "Is that your sister? Did she go to Stanford like you?" Dennis blanches. Before he can hush him, Leo adds cheerfully, "You showed me your college pictures. The red buildings were pretty." Grace drifts closer, Daniel at her side. Her face goes rigid. "Stanford," Daniel repeats, eyes narrowing. "You went to Stanford too, Amber?" "Class of 2014, I say simply." A distinguished cardiologist nearby overhears and turns to Daniel. "You didn't tell him your wife's sister is Amber Collins? Her predictive algorithm research is groundbreaking. Northwestern cut readmissions by 22% using her system." The weight of 11 years of deceit settles visibly on Grace. She reaches for Daniel, but he edges away, focusing on the growing professional circle around me. Rain hammers my dorm window as I stare at the bank statement, the numbers impossible. My college fund drained, funneled into an account I don't recognize. That same day, a package arrives from Grace. Sun-drenched photos of her Cancun spring break. The one I never understood how our family afforded. I blink away the memory, anchoring myself in the present. On the present, Daniel has pulled Grace aside, their tense whispering unmistakable even from across the ballroom. His expression fractures confusion first, then disbelief, then something sharper as she grips his sleeve like a lifeline. "Told me you graduated from Stanford," he says, voice rising just enough to slice through the music. "I went there. I never once heard your name, not from any faculty, not from anyone." Grace's reply bursts out in panic. "It was mostly remote learning, special program. Stanford Medicine doesn't offer remote degrees." Daniel cuts in, voice abruptly cold. "It never has." Color bleeds from Grace's face as the scaffolding of her carefully curated life begins to give way. Her eyes scour the ballroom, frantic, until they land on me with a jolt of naked desperation. Daniel steps back, adjusting his tie with clinical finality, and turns. Without a word to her, he crosses the ballroom away from his bride, directly toward me. Behind him, Grace's stare clings to him like a drowning woman watching someone swim out of reach. Daniel stops before me and gently takes my elbow. His fingers tremble slightly against my skin, the only crack in his polished composure. "Let's talk somewhere quieter," he says, voice steady, but eyes flicking over his shoulder at Grace and my parents, now huddled in a frantic crisis conference. He guides me to a small alcove near the edge of the ballroom to plush chairs angled beneath muted sconces. Shadows soften his features, but the tension carved there is unmistakable. He begins, tugging at his bow tie. He falters, the gulf of unanswered questions stretching wide between us. "You didn't know Grace had a sister?" I finish quietly. His eyebrows shoot upward. "She mentioned a sister once," he mutters, "but said you dropped out after one semester. That you couldn't handle the workload. That you left and never looked back." The old ache pulses, but I keep my expression measured. Years of boardrooms and hostile corporate negotiations have forged armor where raw nerves once lived. Graduated. Summa cum laude, I say evenly, while working 3 jobs. 3 jobs, he echoes, disbelief knitting his brow. I nod. Mornings at a cafe, evenings at the hospital reception desk, weekends at a call center. The memories return in sharp flashes, the bone-deep fatigue. The textbooks stained with spilled espresso, the relentless grinding forward motion. I put myself through school part-time, without any family support. Each word drops between us with the weight of truth long buried. Daniel's confusion shifts to calculation, the surgeon in him reassessing, reorganizing, rethinking every assumption. "Stanford?" he asks, naming his alma mater. I shake my head. Community college first, then State University. My voice softens. I couldn't afford Stanford after discovering my college fund had been, I stop, searching for neutral phrasing. Redirected to Grace's education, he finishes, the pieces clicking together with clinical precision. The ballroom melts away for a moment as memories surge 6 months sleeping on Sarah's lumpy sofa. Sneaking showers at the YWCA when Jaime's boyfriend kicked me out, eating instant noodles for weeks to save for course fees. The humiliation of begging professors for extensions because triple shifts left me barely conscious. I met Michael at the hospital where I worked reception, I say, the memory warming at the edges. He was a resident then. I pictured the dim break room, my head bowed over healthcare administration textbooks, eyelids heavy with exhaustion. Michael stopping, intrigued by the flowchart I'd sketched in the margin. "You understand Kellerman's patient flow theory?" he'd asked, almost incredulous. "It's flawed," I replied without looking up. "The bottleneck isn't intake, it's departmental documentation lag." He pulled up a chair, and we talked until my break ended. The next day, he brought coffee and more questions. Within months, we were developing the prototype that would become Medova's foundation. Daniel leans forward slowly. "And Medova Grace told me you worked an office job." A small, rueful smile touches my lips. We started in our apartment 7 years ago. Last quarter's revenue was just under $400 million. Across the ballroom, I spot my parents flanking Grace like guards. Dennis paces in tight circles, face blotched red, while Margaret clutches Grace's arm so hard her knuckles blanch. Their eyes flick repeatedly toward our alcove, their whispered strategy session frantic, almost feral. "They're going to try pulling him away soon," I say quietly. Daniel follows my gaze. They look concerned. Michael approaches his phone. Angled discreetly toward the floor, his subtle way of documenting hostile behavior while maintaining plausible nonchalance. Years in cutthroat medical tech have taught us protective habits. "Everything okay?" he asks, surgeon's eyes scanning me. "Just talking," I reply, warmth unfurling in my chest. Michael sees me wholly not the diluted narrative my family spent years distributing. Right on cue, Margaret sweeps toward us, her smile forced, voice pitched loudly. "Daniel, someone from Boston General is waiting for you, dying to meet you." Her gaze slices over me like I'm a smudge on glass. I've seen that look my entire childhood. Daniel doesn't budge. In a moment, Margaret, Amber and I are having an important conversation. My mother's smile tightens until it looks painful. Always the attention seeker, our Amber, she announces to nearby guests. She's always been jealous of her sister's achievements. The lie hangs in the air, sour and thick. Several guests shift, uneasy. I remain seated, spine long, face serene. Michael's hand settles on my shoulder, a quiet, reassuring weight. 20 minutes later, when the bathroom door whispers closed. Behind me, I'm not surprised to find Grace already there, mascara wand shaking in her trembling hand. Our reflections meet in the mirror, hers fractured, mine steady. "Why are you doing this to me?" she chokes out, voice cracking. "Doing what?" I ask, drying my hands with calm precision. "Ruining my wedding? Making Daniel question everything?" Tears streak her carefully crafted makeup. "I'm not doing anything," I say quietly. "I'm simply existing." She slams her mascara onto the counter, the sound sharp against the marble. "You were supposed to stay gone." For the first time I see it, the fear beneath the fury, the terror of a life built on sand. "They told everyone you dropped out?" she blurts. "That you couldn't handle responsibility? That you were? And yet here I am," I cut in gently, handling quite a lot. When I walk back into the ballroom, my composure is flawless. Michael's hand finds mine instantly, grounding me in warmth. Grace emerges moments later, makeup repaired, but something fundamental has cracked behind her eyes. I see it instantly. A subtle shift ripples through the room. Wedding guests slowly begin drifting in our direction, pulled by quiet curiosity. A neurosurgeon launches into a discussion about breakthrough monitoring techniques with Michael. A hospital administrator edges closer and discreetly slips me her card. "Your post-operative tracking system cut our complication rates by 30%, she says warmly. "We'd love to talk about scaling its implementation." Daniel remains at my elbow, absorbing every detail of the conversation, asking sharp, thoughtful questions about Medova's algorithms. His new wife lingers just outside the circle, unengaged. Father marches toward us, shoulders stiff with irritation. "Daniel," he cuts in loudly. "This is Grace's wedding. The focus should be on her accomplishments." The silence afterward swells like rising water, swallowing the moment whole. Faces turn toward Daniel, then toward Dennis, then to Grace, whose smile strains at the edges. No one speaks. They don't need to. Some truths echo best in silence. I place my half-finished champagne flute on a passing tray and glance at my watch. We've been here long enough. Across the room, Michael frees himself from an overly enthusiastic orthopedic surgeon. His small nod tells me we're aligned, as always. "Are we leaving now?" Leo tugs my hand, anticipation bright in his eyes. "Pool time, yes, buddy." "Just one more thing." I draw a small cream envelope from my clutch. Inside is a certificate for Medova stock. Not enough to change a life, but more than enough to make a point. This is who I am, now no longer the desperate girl they discarded. Michael joins us, his hand resting against the small of my back. "Ready?" "Almost." I scan the room until I spot Daniel. Whatever his in-laws are, he deserves respect on his wedding day. We find him near the bar. Watching Grace with an expression I recognize those first hairline fractures of doubt where certainty used to be. Grace moves through the crowd with polished charm, yet I notice how her eyes flicker when medical terminology surfaces, how fast she redirects conversations. "We're heading out," I tell Daniel, offering him the envelope. "Congratulations again," he accepts it with genuine warmth. "Thank you for being here." Especially considering his gaze flicks toward my parents, hovering like vultures circling soft prey. "I appreciate the invitation," I reply. "More than I expected. Closing old chapters matters more than I thought." Daniel leans slightly forward, voice low. "I'd like to see Medova sometime. Professionally." Our eyes meet, an unspoken understanding passing cleanly between us. He gets it, maybe not all of it, but enough. "My assistant will arrange it," I say, handing him my card. From the corner of my vision, I see Grace watching us, her smile cracking like old porcelain. Mother drifts toward us, social armor glinting. Amber was always so ambitious, she announces lightly to a nearby couple. Of course she had advantages we couldn't provide Grace. The blatant rewriting of history would have gutted me once. Now it almost feels humorous. "What advantages were those, Mrs. Collins?" Michael asks, perfectly pleasant. "The 3 jobs she worked while putting herself through night school? Or the part where she slept on friends' couches after you took her tuition money?" Mother's face tightens, but several of Daniel's colleagues have drifted close enough to overhear. She hesitates, recalculating her narrative. Leo looks up at me, confusion creasing his features. Aren't those people your family, Mom? The question slices through the noise. Simple, direct, unintentionally devastating. I crouch to meet his eyes. They're relatives, sweetheart? Family is something different. That's when Father decides to insert himself, puffing up his chest the same way he did when I was young and easily frightened. You can't just stroll back into our lives. I have no intention of walking into anything, I reply, my voice calm but edged with finality. I'm not here to expose you or reconcile with you. I built my own life exactly what you forced me to do when you shut the door. A memory bursts uninvited, drains soaking through my coat. My suitcase heavy at my side, the raw, terrifying freedom of having nothing. Leo twists the knot of his bow tie again. Michael rests a steady hand on our son's small shoulder, studying him the same way he studied me years ago when I thought I would sink. Thank you, I say to my parents, watching confusion flicker across their faces. Thank you for not giving me a chance. It made me build my own. Mother's expression warps between fury and the need to maintain social grace. For once, she has no words. I take Leo's hand. Michael falls into step beside us as we walk out, unrushed, composed, complete. No theatrical goodbyes, no shattered scenes, just the quiet authority of leaving whole. Whispers fall behind us like gentle rain. But unlike the whispers of that night 11 years ago, these never touch me. I'm shielded now, wrapped in the life I built. In the lobby, Leo breaks loose and spins with gleeful energy. Pool time. 10 minutes to change? Then I'll meet you there, Michael says, tousling his hair. As we cross toward the elevators, our reflection catches in the polished marble three figures, steady, connected. Behind us, through the crack of the ballroom doors, I see Daniel watching our departure, then turning back to his bride with new questions shadowing his eyes. Some weddings are beginnings. This one is an ending, the final shedding of expectations I never needed. A validation I no longer chase, of pain I refuse to carry forward. Leo presses the elevator button with fierce determination. Up we go, yes, I murmur. Up we go. Sunlight slices through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my office, stretching long across the smooth concrete. A month has passed since Grace's wedding, but the memory lingers like a half-remembered dream tucked in the corners of my thoughts. I flip through the partnership proposal from Boston Memorial. An 8-figure contract sprawls across my desk. Medova's monitoring platform reduced their post-surgical complications by 37% in the test run. Numbers don't lie. Numbers don't take sides. Meredith's voice crackles through the intercom. Dr. Daniel Brooks is here to see you. My pen stills. I haven't spoken to my sister's husband since that night. Send him in. Daniel steps inside like a man carrying weight no one else sees. His shoulders curve inward, his suit rumpled at the elbows. Dark smudges bruise the skin beneath his eyes. Thank you for seeing me without an appointment. He hovers until I gesture toward the chair across from me. Coffee? I offer. He shakes his head. I can't stay long. I wait. Silence, I've learned, draws truth out more efficiently than pressure. I spoke with a lawyer about annulment, he begins, the words tumbling like heavy stones. Everything Grace told me was false. She never went to Stanford. She never managed your parents' clinic. She's the receptionist. I absorb it without surprise. The lies were always there, just waiting for someone willing to see them. I'm sorry, I say gently. Truly, your parents propped her up as the face of their practice while his words falter as he drags a hand through his hair. While they hid the billing schemes at the clinic, they've been submitting Medicare charges for procedures that never happened, using outdated codes on purpose. Grace wasn't just aware of it. She participated. Confession hits like a slapknot because it shocks me. But because it confirms the unease I buried years ago. I never meant to drag you back into this, Daniel says, voice low. But when I started digging into Grace's credentials, I found patterns. Gaps. Your name kept surfacing in old clinic logs, then disappearing altogether about 11 years ago. The skyline outside my window wavers behind summer heat, glass towers shimmering like mirages. I built this view from dust while they built their reputation on deceit. They used my college fund for grace, I reply evenly. When I confronted them, they said I wasn't Stanford material anyway. Daniel flinches at that. The ironic part, I continue, is that I never wanted to be a physician. I wanted to build systems that made medicine smarter, safer, more precise. You've done exactly that, Daniel says quietly. Taking in the room, the wall of monitors, the whiteboards layered with algorithm notes, Medova is changing post-surgical recovery all over the country. A stretch of silence settles between us, not strange, just honest. The clinic is under active investigation, he finally says. I submitted anonymous documentation once I understood how extensive the fraud was. They've been doing it for almost 15 years. 15 years. Beginning almost exactly when I left for college, my phone buzzes with a text from Michael. Picking up Leo early? Zude, come join us. Warmth moves through my chest, loosening something tight. This is the family I chose. What are you going to do now? I ask. He inhales, straightening. File for an annulment. Cooperate fully with investigators. Start over. He hesitates, then adds softly, I also came to apologize for how my actions dragged you back into all of this. And I need to ask, do you intend to participate in the investigation? The question hangs between us, weighted and sharp. I know what my involvement would mean. One call from Medova's CEO directly to the Medicare fraud division, and their entire world would collapse faster. No, I say at last. I built my life outside of them, and I'm going to keep it separate. Relief flickers across his features. Thank you for your time. When Daniel leaves, I step to the glass wall and watch traffic threading through the streets 40 stories below. My phone hums a new voicemail. Grace again. The third message this week. Michael calls just as I gather my bag, ready to meet them at the zoo. You sound worn out, he says gently. Daniel Brooks came by. The Collins practice is under federal investigation for Medicare fraud. A long pause. Are you okay? Yes. The honesty of it surprises me. Are you going to get involved? I watch a red-tailed hawk glide between the skyscrapers, catching warm air currents with effortless precision. I've been thinking about what you said last week, that my success is already the punishment they can't escape. And I meant it, Michael replies. But it's your call. A chime from my computer interrupts us. An email has arrived from an attorney working with the Medicare Fraud Investigative Division, requesting information about my history at the Collins Clinic. Attached are forms and notices regarding sworn testimony. They want me to testify, I tell Michael. What are you going to do? Consider the question. Part of me wants to trash the email, decline the request, let the consequences fall without my name attached to any part of it. But another part of me remembers the patients who sat in those waiting rooms, elderly men and women whose Medicare benefits were siphoned away under the guise of care. I'll send them copies of the clinic's original files from when I worked there, I decide aloud. No commentary, no accusations. Just the documentation. I'm proud of you, Michael says softly. My phone vibrates again, another voicemail from Grace, the third today. The first, begging for financial help. The second, threatening to tell Leo the truth about his mother. I don't bother opening the third. My thumb hits delete without hesitation. The finality of it is startlingly cleansing. Leo wants to see the new tiger cubs, Michael says, grounding me back in the life that matters. Tell him I'm on my way. I collect my bag, pausing at the door to glance back at my office. The Boston Memorial proposal sits on my desk. Major hospital ready to integrate a system. I built from sheer grit and relentless nights. I close the door behind me, leaving Grace's message to dissolve into the digital void where it belongs. Some debts can't be repaid. Some wounds never knit all the way closed. But moving forward doesn't always require forgiveness. Sometimes it just requires release. The purple coneflowers tilt toward the sunlight. I pluck another wilted bloom, dropping it into the collection in my hand. 6 months have passed since the wedding. 6 months of breathing like a woman who finally stepped out of shoes that never fit. Leo darts between the raised beds, his Batman cape flapping heroically behind him. "Mom, can I water the tomatoes?" "Start with the peppers," I tell him, nodding toward their drooping leaves. "They need it more." He grabs his tiny watering can, tongue poked out in concentration, trying to avoid spilling as he walks. Mid-May warmth soaks through my t-shirt. No fancy outfits. No curated perfection. Just comfort. My space. My life. Michael appears in the patio doorway, balancing 3 lemonades on a tray. "Reinforcements," he announces, stepping down into our small garden. His expert surgeon's hands the same ones that repaired delicate heart valves present Leo's glass with theatrical elegance. "Thank you, sir." Leo replies with an overly dramatic bow that nearly sloshes lemonade everywhere. Michael catches my eye over Leo's head. A silent exchange flows between us. This is it. This garden. This child. This life built from truth and persistence. "The Davis Hospital Board approved the monitoring system," Michael adds, sounding casual even though the news is monumental. "The 5th major hospital chain this year. Thousands more patients who will heal safely because of what we created. That's number 5. Leo crows, counting on his fingers. "Mom's helping all the sick people get better faster." I muss his hair, astonished at how much he absorbs. "That's the goal, sweetheart." The doorbell rings inside. Michael arches a brow. "Expecting anything?" "Probably FedEx. Those component samples from Switzerland." But when he returns, his expression has tightened. He holds a certified envelope. The return address is visible. Even from the yard, Grace Collins Brooks. That old knot. Coils in my stomach again, the one I thought had finally loosened. "I'll be in my office." The envelope waits on my desk for 17 minutes while I finish reviewing quarterly projections. Michael leans against the doorway, silent but steady. When I finally slide the seal open, a single sheet of cream stationery slips out. Written in Grace's neat script, "Amber, the clinic shut down last month. Not because of anything you did, but because of everything Mom and Dad hid. The investigation uncovered billing fraud stretching back 15 years. Daniel left. He said he couldn't build a marriage on lies. He was right. I'm not writing to ask for money. I know better now. I'm writing to tell you something I was never brave enough to admit. You were never the problem. I was raised to believe your intelligence overshadowed mine, that your independence made me less, that your ambition was a threat. I believed them when they said cutting you off was necessary. I was wrong. They were wrong, and I'm sorry, Grace." Michael doesn't ask what the letter says. He simply waits as I fold the page and slide it back into its envelope. "What will you do?" he asks quietly. "Nothing dramatic," I reply, turning toward my computer. I open a blank document, type steadily for several minutes, then print a single sheet. I tuck it inside a Mednava envelope, along with the note I wrote. 2 weeks later, I'm standing at the perimeter of the American Medical Technology Conference in Chicago, watching my team showcase our newest breakthroughs to a gathering of healthcare professionals. The Redmond Nova booth is busy, our name carrying weight now. A flicker of motion catches my attention. Someone wearing pale blue scrubs near the education pavilion. Grace. Her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, listening closely to a speaker, explaining the basics of medical coding certification. Our eyes meet across the bustling hall. No dramatic reactions, no scenes, just quiet, mutual understanding. In her hands is the Mednava internship application I mailed her, held like it means something. I give her a small nod, not forgiveness, but acknowledgement. She nods back, her eyes shining with something that looks a lot like determination. We don't walk toward each other. Some relationships reach their conclusion, not continuation. That evening, finalized the paperwork for the Collins first-generation medical scholarship. Not named for my parents, no, but reclaiming my original name for something meaningful. Next fall, 20 students without family support will receive full tuition and mentorship. Back home, I kneel in our garden again, pressing small holes into the soil for new seedlings. Leo helps me, his tiny hands patting dirt around the fragile roots. "Some plants can't grow well beside certain others," I tell him, spacing them out. They need their own room to thrive. Like people, he asks, surprisingly thoughtful. Clever boy, I whisper, kissing his forehead. Like people, the sun pours gold across our yard. Through the kitchen window, I can see Michael making dinner, moving comfortably through the home we built together. I press another seed,